The U.S. China trade war, initiated under the Trump administration, has disrupted global trade dynamics and created ripple effects across industries, particularly in technology. This trade war, framed as a response to intellectual property theft and unfair trade practices, has deeper roots in the U.S.'s attempt to curb China's rapid technological rise. While these measures primarily targeted China, their impact on multinational companies like Samsung Electronics, based in U.S. allied South Korea, revealed unintended but severe consequences. Samsung, heavily reliant on the Chinese market, has been disproportionately affected by these tariffs and sanctions, highlighting the broader repercussions of the U.S.'s protectionist approach. The U.S. as the initiator of the trade war. The U.S. China trade war began in 2018 when the Trump administration imposed tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods, expanding to over $360 billion by 2020. The stated rationale for these tariffs included reducing the trade deficit, combating intellectual property theft, and addressing forced technology transfers. However, the underlying objective was to slow China's advancements in technology sectors such as semiconductors, 5G, and artificial intelligence. Recognizing that China's advancements were outpacing U.S. capabilities in many areas, the U.S. used tariffs and sanctions as tools to create economic and technological barriers. This approach underscored the inability of the U.S. to compete on equal terms in sectors where China had developed a competitive edge. The trade war was not merely about addressing economic grievances, it was a strategic attempt to retain technological supremacy. Samsung Electronics, as one of the world's largest technology firms, found itself at the epicenter of this conflict. Although Samsung is based in South Korea, a U.S. ally, its heavy reliance on the Chinese market for both revenue and production made it a collateral victim of the U.S. China trade war. In 2024, Samsung reported that 31% of its total revenue came from the Chinese market, equivalent to approximately $24.1 billion in the first half of the year alone. The company's semiconductor division, which includes memory chips and processors, depends on Chinese customers such as Huawei, which has been severely restricted by U.S. sanctions. China serves as a critical manufacturing hub for Samsung's consumer electronics and semiconductors. While Samsung has diversified its production facilities to other countries like Vietnam and India, a significant portion of its operations remains in China. This reliance on Chinese manufacturing exposes Samsung to increased costs due to U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports, disrupting its global supply chain. In the Chinese smartphone market, Samsung faces stiff competition from local brands like Huawei, Xiaomi, and Oppo. These companies have capitalized on rising nationalism and U.S. sanctions against Huawei to expand their market share, further marginalizing Samsung in one of the world's largest consumer markets. The U.S.'s tariffs and sanctions have created a cascade of challenges for Samsung, threatening its profitability and long-term market position. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports have raised the cost of components and raw materials that Samsung sources from China. For instance, higher tariffs on semiconductor manufacturing equipment have added to production costs, eroding Samsung's profit margins. Sanctions targeting Huawei have had a direct impact on Samsung's semiconductor business. Huawei, one of Samsung's largest clients for memory chips, has faced restrictions on its access to advanced technology, reducing its demand for Samsung's products. This has created a revenue gap that is difficult to fill in the short term. Investor concerns about Samsung's vulnerability to trade tensions have weighed on its stock performance. In November 2024, Samsung's shares dropped to their lowest point in over 4 years, reflecting apprehension about the company's exposure to U.S.-China trade conflicts. The U.S.'s strategy of targeting China through tariffs and sanctions has inadvertently harmed companies in allied nations, including South Korea, Japan, and Netherlands. These companies are integral to the global technology supply chain and heavily reliant on the Chinese market. This demonstrates that U.S. tariffs on imports and sanctions not only harm American companies, but also negatively impact businesses in allied nations. In other words, the U.S. appears willing to go to great lengths to hinder China's progress, even at the expense of its own industries and those of its allies. While SK Hynix, another South Korean semiconductor giant, has also faced challenges. It has managed to secure waivers from US export restrictions, allowing it to continue some operations in China. However, the long-term uncertainty created by the trade war poses risks to its business stability. European and Japanese firms. European technology firms and Japanese manufacturers with significant exposure to China have also faced disruptions in their supply chains and declining revenues. Smaller companies with less diversification have even faced bankruptcy, unable to absorb the economic shocks caused by trade tensions. The U.S. China trade war has not only strained bilateral relations, but also restructured global trade and supply chains, with lasting implications for multinational corporations and allied economies. Incentivizing China's innovation. Ironically, U.S. sanctions and tariffs have incentivized China to accelerate its domestic innovation efforts. By investing heavily in research and development, China has made significant progress in reducing its dependence on foreign technology, particularly in semiconductors and AI. The trade war has placed U.S. allies in a difficult position, forcing them to navigate conflicting demands from the U.S. and China. For companies like Samsung, this geopolitical tension creates a precarious balancing act between maintaining access to both markets while mitigating risks. The trade war underscores the US's reliance on protectionist measures to maintain its competitive edge in the face of China's technological rise. Unable to match China's advancements in sectors like 5G, AI, and semiconductors, the US has resorted to tariffs and sanctions to create barriers to China's progress. China's rapid ascent in high-tech industries has challenged the US's dominance. By targeting Chinese companies like Huawei and restricting access to advanced technologies, the US aims to slow China's progress and maintain its own technological leadership. While protectionist measures may temporarily shield US industries from competition, they also create inefficiencies in the global economy. Higher tariffs increase costs for consumers and businesses, reducing economic growth and innovation. The U.S.-China trade war, initiated by the United States, has had far-reaching consequences for global trade and technology sectors. While the U.S. aimed to curb China's technological advancements, its protectionist measures have also inflicted significant harm on allied companies like Samsung Electronics. Samsung's reliance on the Chinese market has made it particularly vulnerable to tariffs and sanctions, highlighting the broader repercussions of the trade war. As the trade war continues to evolve, multinational corporations like Samsung must adapt to an increasingly fragmented global economy. By diversifying supply chains, expanding into new markets, and investing in innovation, Samsung can navigate these challenges and maintain its competitive position.
Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It's one of the best ways to help more people see this content. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment below and join the conversation about today's topic. Your engagement and support mean everything to me and make it possible for me to create more impactful content that aims to bring the world closer together. If you'd like to take it a step further, you can support the channel directly through the link in the description. Every bit of support helps this community grow and fuels the mission to make a difference. Thank you for being such an important part of this journey.